Hello and welcome back. I'm going to have a look at terrain textures in this video today. I've already done a video on how to edit the pre-existing terrain textures, but I got asked to comment on one of my videos how to add in additional terrain textures. By that I mean leaving the ones that are already on the map there and then adding in additional ones to those. So that's what hopefully we're going to have a look at here today. So I've made a sample mod map here of Goldcrest Valley, just so we got something to work with that's got the base standard Giants textures in it and whatever else, because if you're working with a mod map, chances are somebody's already put their own, the author of that map or creator or whatever you want to call the person has maybe changed them already. So to start off with the standard ones, I think is for me the best option in this particular case doing this tutorial. So I'm going to open up the map here in Giants Editor. I won't play around with the textures we've got, I'm sure you've already all seen them. Just going to open the map up and show you what we've got in the actual menus here and whatever else, the drop downs. So Goldcrest Valley, there we go. Haven't been on this map in a long time, but there it is. So we've obviously got grass, some pig mud over there somewhere, and some town grass, rough dirt, and so on and so on. And we can have a look at those in our terrain editing window. If you don't have this open, go into window and then terrain editing and it'll pop up. If we come down to our texture layer painting, you can see we've got our texture layers. If you click on the drop down, rough dirt, grass, mountain rock, beach, sand, gravel, concrete, forest ground, town grass, pig mud. So that's the ones we have at the moment. What we're going to do here is actually add in some additional ones. Well, I'm only going to do one in this video, and hopefully from that you'll be able to get an idea of what you need to do to add in additional ones after that. Now, one thing I will just point out here, this is an assumption on my part, but I would suggest that Giants have put in this amount and no more, because that's probably what the maximum you would probably go with to keep the map as optimized as possible. And there are limitations on how many different textures you can actually put on the map in one particular section, in one chunk. But what I mean by that is if we actually highlight the terrain detail texture paint mode brush here, you can see you have these squares pop up all over the map. And if we come over to here, it might be a little bit better. You can see them a little bit better. This is obviously a field, but there is a texture, a ground texture or terrain texture underneath it. And you can see we have these squares, they're called chunks. And if we actually look at the text here, you can see we have in this particular square or chunk, we have 3 different textures: rough dirt, grass and pig mud. Per each square or chunk, whatever you want to call it, you are only allowed a maximum of 4 different terrain textures. So if you come over to here and you have 20 different terrain textures in here, you're still only going to be able to put 4 in each square. So, just because you've got 20 doesn't mean you're going to be able to use all of them. But nonetheless, I wanted to do this video anyway, just to answer the comment and show you how to go about doing this. On top of that, if you do end up with 20 different terrain textures, again, this may cause you FPS issues, which would be frames per second, lag and all sorts of different things, because each texture you put on the map, obviously as you drive towards it or walk towards it or whatever else, it's going to have to then draw it in to the map. So it's adding something else to the map, which is taking another resource. So you may find that with this, by doing this, you're going to end up with a map that's only going to run at 5 frames per second or something. But that's going to be on you to experiment with and work with and whatever else. So just a warning there that yes, you can do this, but whether it's best practice to do it or not is going to be on you guys to decide what you want to do. I mean, there may be just 1 or 2 may not make much of a difference. If you feel that you want to just add in 1 or 2 additional ones for whatever reason, then that might be okay. But 20 or whatever, I would probably say that's going to be far too many, and you're going to be limited again on how many you can actually put on the map to start with. So they may end up just being pointless, and you won't be able to use them anyway. So Anyway, we'll move on. Right, so what I want to do then is obviously add those in. Well, we need to actually go into the i3D of the map. So what I'll do is I'll close this down. We don't really need to be there anymore. And we need to look at what we've already got in the i3D. So in whatever map you're going to be editing, or if you're creating a map or whatever else, you need to right click on your map01.i3D and open this in a text editor. I'm using Notepad++. It's free, really good program. There are many others, but so if you're using a different text editor, you'll need to work with that. There may be some differences and changes that don't look the same on here, but you know, text editors are a text editor. So okay, so for me the easiest way to get to this is to actually, from the top of the actual page here, just go Control and F, which will bring up your find window. You can also do this by going into search and then find, and in here just type in materials. Again, I've done this many times, as I say in every video, so it just brings it up for me automatically. Just type in their materials, click find next, and then find next. And I have noticed again they've changed, unfortunately in my opinion, they've changed the Notepad++ again. They've taken away the two buttons up here for forward and backwards searching, and they've now given us a little tick box. Not really to my liking. I preferred the two buttons up here. Excuse my phone, one moment. You know, every time I do one of these videos, I try to shut down as many different things I've got running on my computer. I remember to switch stuff off, and there's always one thing that I forget to actually silence or switch off. And unfortunately, my dog, he doesn't have an off switch, so if you can hear him in the background, I apologise. Right, so we've done our find next, and we're at the bottom of the materials section, and I can now just scroll down and we come to our actual layers and all the bits and pieces that are to do with our crops and whatever else. What we're looking for here is obviously our terrain textures, which will be up here, which it says terrain transform group. So we're looking at our actual layers here, and again we have our rough dirt, grass, and so on and so on. So what we need to do is obviously add in a new one here, and we need to obviously do this in a particular manner. So for me, the best or the easiest way, I think, is to actually find one that is close to what you're going to be working with. So for this particular video, what I've done is I've chosen a leaves diffuse texture, which looks like this. Got some pine cones and bits and pieces in it. A little bit different to the needles that we have at the moment within the actual Giants standard Goldcrest Valley map. And you can then work with whatever you're going to be. So if you want to bring in asphalt or sand or a different type of sand or whatever else. But I've chose this one. I really like the texture, so I'm going to bring this in. To be honest with you, I more than likely would replace the one that's already on there for the forest ground texture with this one, but we're going to be obviously working with additional texture, so we need to work with that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to choose one which is close to my leaves, which would be the actual forest ground. So I'm going to take the actual line of text there, I'm going to make a copy of it, I'm going to create a new text document and paste it in. And then what I need to do down here, we've also got our layer combiner, which basically means that you can, when you join two textures together, one will be the base and one will be the top. My understanding of this is one takes priority over the other one. So obviously your base is what you would lay down underneath, and then the top would be what blends in over the top of that base. If I'm incorrect in that, please let me know in the comments, but that's my understanding of it. So you need to work with whatever you're going to be putting in, and then create your base and top layers accordingly. So you'll need to experiment with that and just see which way works best for you. So you might need to switch these around a little bit. But I'm going to take the forest ground and I'm going to work with that. So if we look at these, we come down through here, we've got forest ground there and forest ground there, and they are on top of our rough dirt and beach sand. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take both of those sections, and I'm going to make a copy of those, and I'm going to come back over to here. I'm going to create a couple of lines, and then I'm going to paste those in like so. And then what I need to do is actually find all the bits and pieces to do with our forest ground. So we have a detail map. So I'm going to take that number, which is 29, and I'm going to do a search for that. So we know it's a file ID, so we need to go back up to the top. So what I'll do is I'll actually go to the top of the page here and I'll search down. And I'll also click the match whole word only, so it only finds 29 on its own. I'm going to make a copy of that. And then we'll bring it over and we'll put it in. So what I'll do here is I like to have my files at the top, so we'll paste that in up there. And if we actually look at these, you can see that we have 27, 28, 29 and 30. So we're looking for 27 to 30. So if I come back over into here, and I can also see now I've got 28 and 30 is right here. So I can take both of those lines as well. So I'm going to bring those in. Like so. Then I need to just search for 27. 27, yeah, 27. So we can do a search for 27. If you can see it, within the bunch here, then copy it, but I can't, so we're going to go with 27. Again, we'll come up to the top of the page here. I think it's easier to do it that way. And there we go. So we need to copy that one. I only do this because it just keeps everything, all of the bits and pieces, the path file names and everything, keeps them all exactly how I want them to be, so I don't have to create them. And then what I'm going to do is just basically move these around so that they're actually in order, in numerical order. So I'm just going to cut that line and paste it back in there. So we have 27, 28, 29 and 30. So if we actually go through these, we've got 27, which is our weight PNG, and then we have our texture files, our distance diffuse, our diffuse and our normal channel. So not going to get into the attributes and all the other bits and pieces and the priority. Don't really understand too much about any of that stuff. So this is why I say it's good to choose one that's already on the map that is a close representation of what you're bringing in, because the attributes and the priority will generally match, so you don't need to really mess about with any of those too much. Again, if anybody knows what all of these bits mean, then let me know, because I don't really understand what the attribute side of things is. I would imagine that's probably how it's kind of positioned height wise and everything else, and rotational wise on the map, but again, that's just a guess on my part. Don't really know. And I've played around with this a little bit, and it doesn't seem to affect it too much by doing it this way. It looks good on the maps and it plays well in the game, so I would generally just say leave that alone if you don't understand it. Again, like I say, just choose something that's already on the map that is a close representation of what you're going to be bringing into the map, and you should be fine. Okay, so we've got all of our parts here, what we need. I'll just bring those over a little bit so we can actually see them all in line. I like to have things in line, just the way I am. Okay, so we're just going to bring that over to like so. So what we need to do now then is actually change some of these numbers, because obviously they already exist. We know they exist in this map because that's where we've just taken them from. So the easiest thing for me to do is obviously just put a number in front of this that is going to be higher than what is already pre-existing in our i3D for the map that we're going to be working with. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type in 1000, just so I know it's a really high number above what we've already got. And I'm going to paste that 1000 in front of all of the file ID numbers here, so they all now are a much bigger number than we'd have on the map. And I'm going to come down to here and I'm going to do exactly the same so that these match into these ones. So I'm going to do that one. The unit size needs to stay the same. Our weight map needs to be changed because that is this one up here, and our distance needs to be changed as well. These ones I'm going to leave alone. I'm not going to mess about these. You can do that if you want to, your sharpness and the depth scale and all the rest of it. Have a play around with those if you choose to, and see what you can make out of it. Might make a lot of difference, might make no difference. I don't really know. I haven't really played around with these numbers. It might be appropriate for the textures that we're going to be working with. Then it might want a different depth scale. It might want to be lower or higher. The sharpness might need to be brought in a little bit to make it pop and all the rest of it. Again, I'm not going to get into any of that. This is just basics of how to get the texture into the map, and you can then play around with all these different numbers and whatever else for your own needs. Okay, so now we've got all of those parts. We obviously need to create a couple of things because we don't have a weight PNG so we need to get one. We've got our textures, which we're going to be changing over to the leaves. So what I need to do here then is I need to actually change some bits and pieces, because I've got a leaves diffuse, a leaves distance diffuse, and a leaves normal. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take the text here, so I know I'm spelling it right, and I'm going to overwrite the forest ground with our leaves, in all of those instances. So we've now got leaves distance diffuse, and leaves normal. Okay, and then we also need to change this one over here as well to leaves, and this one as well, and this one as well. Make sure you get them all. Okay, so now we have all of our bits and pieces changed over, so it knows in the drop down it's now going to display it as leaves and not forest ground or anything else. And we'll have all of our path file names correct with our textures named correctly as well, so all the bits and pieces should line up okay. Lastly, we need to change our forest ground weight to leaves as well. Perfect. Okay, so but we need to now create our leaves weight PNG. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into the map01 folder on the sample mod map here, and I'm going to look at what we've got in here. So I'm going to have a look at the forest ground weight, and you can see that this one's actually got quite a lot on it, so we don't want that one. I'm going to have a look at our beach sand. That's got some on it. Concrete's got something on it. And you need to look at all of these and see what grass has obviously got loads. Gravel, mountain rock, pig mud, rough dirt. Pig mud has got very little. Actually, that's got quite a lot on it as well. Just didn't show up very well in the actual preview window there. So what you need to do now then, because all of those have got something on them already, what you could do is go into the map and actually remove all of whatever. So you could look in the map itself, go into the map and remove all of the forest ground texture in the map, save the map, and then take this one. But obviously you don't want to mess up the map that you're going to be working with, so find a map that actually has a weight PNG that doesn't have a lot on it. I would probably say the best thing to do here is to find a sample mod map that's already been created. So if I go into my Farming Simulator 17 modding folder here, I've actually got a learmap _ ls17, which is a sample mod map I downloaded from wherever. There's loads of different ones. Go to Mod Hoster or wherever and download one if you haven't already got one. And in here we've got a map01 with all of our weight files in here. And if I click on one in here and open this up, it's completely blank because it's a sample mod map. The only thing on this map is grass. There's nothing else on there. And you can play around with your sample mod map, your downloaded sample mod map, as much as you want without messing up the map that you're going to be editing. So we're going to take this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag that out and make a copy of it. Because this is a 17 map, I've got to make no changes. I don't need to resize it or anything else. I can just take it straight from there without having to edit it and modify it and whatever else. So going back to our textures that we've got, you need to make sure that these are the correct format. So using the WTV program, I've actually checked these and they are the right format for what I'm going to be working with. So if you're taking these from a 17 map, they will be exactly what you need. If you're taking them from a 15 map and then converting them, chances are the diffuse will be a PNG, not a DDS. So you'll need to convert it to a DDS and then convert the others to the correct format and whatever else. So just be aware of that. Compare them to what you've already got. So go into your map folder and go into your textures folder, terrain. You've got all the ones that are on the map here. So you need to just check those, get the WTV program. I'll put a link in the description. Find out what format they are, and then change the ones that you're going to be getting to those formats if they need to be changed. I've done this in previous videos. I'm not going to do it in this one. Just get the WTV program or a program that reads the formats of DDS files. This is a very good program. It's totally free. And then you can convert whatever you're going to be working with to work with the 17 map. So what I can do here is I can actually take all of these. I'm going to cut these and I'm going to paste them into my terrain folder like so. If you're working with a mod map that's not a Goldcrest Valley sample mod map, one that somebody's created from scratch or whatever else, you may find that the path file names will be slightly different to what I'm working with here today. I believe Thornton Farm is a good example. If I remember rightly, I haven't got the map up here at the moment, but I think the textures on that, or the actual folders, are a little bit different if I recall. Could be wrong there, I haven't played with that map in a little while, but there are some maps that have the folders slightly different to what they are for Goldcrest Valley, so you'll need to just double check the path file names for your texture files for the terrain texture files, and then change your path file names appropriately. Or you could just create your own folder. So take this path file name, create your own folders appropriately, and then just put these into that particular folder. Up to you, I'll leave that to you to decide what you want to do with there. So next thing we're going to do is go into our map01 folder. Because we've already got a forest ground _ weight PNG, we can't obviously put that one into there. So again, we need to rename this one to leaves _ weight. So we'll go ahead and do that. There we go. Now I can bring that into there like so. Perfect. So that is now linked to this line at the top here. That is our weight PNG. So what we can do now is actually bring these all into the i3D for the map. So I'm going to highlight the file IDs first and copy those, bring them over. We'll create a line at the top here and just paste those in. Perfect. Then we need to bring in our layer. So we'll make a copy of that, come back over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a search for my materials again, just to bring me to the right place within the i3D. And we'll go underneath our pig mud here, so we'll create a new line, paste it in, tidy the text up a little bit. And then we need to bring in our combiner layers. So we've got our rough dirt, leaves, beach sand, and then leaves. So we're going to copy those, come over, and we're going to put those at the bottom here, like so. And again, we'll just tidy up the text here, so it all lines up nicely. And that's that. So we've now got all of those parts into there where we need them. So we can go ahead and save. We'll close down our map 01.i3D. I'll leave this open just for now, just in case. We've brought in our weight PNG. We've taken it from a sample mod map and we've changed the name. That's as easy as that. We're just creating a new weight PNG. It's important that it's a blank one though, not one with a load of stuff on it, because when you bring it into the map it will get really confusing and it will just chuck a load of leaves all over the map, and it may overwrite what's already on there, so the leaves may take priority over pig mud or something like that, so it could completely screw up your map. So just make sure you're using a blank one, which is why I say if you can't find a blank one on the map that you're working with, download a sample mod map, a blank sample mod map, and just take one from there and rename it to whatever you need to call it to work, and that's it. Easy. So what we'll do now then is we'll go into the map. Excuse me for all the sniffling, I've got a cold again. Seems I've always got a cold these days. Okay, so we're in the map again now, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to first of all come into our texture layer painting section in our terrain editing window. If we click on here, we've now got an additional line at the bottom here called leaves. Perfect. So if we highlight that one, we're going to go to our terrain detail texture paint mode brush again, and we're looking for a space that's only got 3 textures in, because if I haven't already mentioned this, I'm going to say it now. You can only have a maximum of 4 textures per square or chunk. I'm pretty sure I've already said it, but I just want to say it again because it may have slipped your mind. Okay, so we'll come over to here because this has only got 3 and it will show up quite well over here. So okay, so we've now got our leaves selected and we can now paint that onto the map, and there we go. No errors in our console. Really important that you have a look in there and just double check that you've got no errors in your console, because if it shows up here something like warning, unable to locate, blah blah blah, it means you've put a texture file in the wrong place. and it can't find it, it might say that your weight PNG is not working properly or whatever else. Just look at your errors and then find out what the problem is, and then obviously fix it before you save the map. Because once you've saved the map, if there's something in here that's not working properly, if you save it with an error or a warning in here, it might screw something up. So just exit out, don't save, fix the error, then come back in, check your error log again in your console. If there are no errors, then you can paint on the map and save without any worries. So there we go. I think that looks pretty good. It's got the good height texture layer to it, which is coming back to these parts here with the depth scale and all the rest of it, I believe. The sharpness, I believe that's the difference between the base and top. So whichever one takes priority in the sharpness will be sharper than the other one. Again, that's a guess on my part. Again, I don't know about the attributes, and I'm not sure on the priority. If somebody does know, again, let me know in the comments on that one, but it works. I tend not to mess about these things too much by changing lots of numbers. If it works, I'm just going to go with it. And I think it blends in quite nicely with the grass and everything, the grass actual foliage texture. So, you know, it's blending in with the dirt there, the rough dirt and whatever else. So I think that's pretty good. This also comes back to our rough dirt leaves. So we have our rough dirt as a base, and then leaves are our top. So you can see the leaves are just taking priority over the top of the base, which is our rough dirt. If you turn those around, the dirt would take priority over the leaves, and then it may not blend in quite so nicely. So you want, obviously, leaves are going to be resting on top of dirt, not the other way around generally, I would suggest. So that's the way you want to have it. Okay, so there we go. Pretty straightforward, not too much of a problem there, I don't think. Just recapping sort of thing. Make sure you choose something in the map already that represents what you're going to be bringing in. So I chose forest ground texture because it's pine needles and whatever else looks similar to leaves. So I've just taken those file IDs and the layer information and then adapted it to work with whatever texture I'm going to be bringing in. And again, our layer pairing, taken something that's already existing, our forest ground again, and then just adapted that to work with it. You may need to experiment with these a little bit and find what works for you. Again, if you're working with asphalt or whatever else, you may need to change things around so that you have a different base to your top. If you're bringing in asphalt to concrete, for example, you may want the asphalt to take priority over the concrete. So your concrete would be top and your concrete would be base, and then your asphalt would be top. If you want it the other way around, then you need to change that, and so on and so on. So there we go. Hopefully this has shown you how to bring in an additional texture to what an additional terrain layer texture to what we've already got on the map. Again, like I said before, the more you add in here and the more you start putting on the map, you may notice a big hit in your frames. So you'll want to limit this maybe to 1, 2, 3, I don't know. Again, that'll be on you to experiment with and just see what the maximum you can bring in before your frames start to take a hit and your gameplay starts to come to a grinding halt. I'm going to end the video there, I think. I'm pretty sure I've explained it as best as I can. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.